This is Things You Might Not Have Heard, and I am Jay Cleveland Payne, and queued up for you today 10 news stories from the weekend, vetted as conversational by you that cover information, politics, current events, and pop culture news. We are going to the China deal. We are going to the Tennessee earthquake, and we're going to Amber Heard. Surprisingly, Amber Heard, what a surprise announcement this weekend to make Mother's Day a bit more special for her, at least, and maybe you. Probably not, but we'll go with that one. The vetting process we'll explain in just a bit after all 10 headlines from the day are explained. But right now, three things of the bat to get you into our conversation project lineage. The Conversation Project's home online is a conversationproject.com, and where you can find out all the information you know about what the Conversation Project is all about and other more better media things as well. While you're at the website, visit our link to our sponsors, and this week's sponsor, or today's sponsor, I'd say, is us. More and more better media stuff, book stuff. It is the Now What Network Manifesto, a book I wrote about trying to stay engaged in political action, and we'll talk about why that's important when we get to that part. And of course, you can email me with your comments, concerns, your questions anytime you're into it at the conversation inbox at gmail.com. Today is Monday, the 12th of May, 2025. No particular order as the stories are being listed. We'll let you some insights on some of the dealings, how they got picked, including the first story, which is still China, but a bit of a breaking news story going on. But we'll give you some insights on some of the engagement and how people got these stories in there and explain the full engagement after all headlines are done. Headline number one begins with the U.S.-China deal. And we really shouldn't call it a deal, but it is the tariff stuff, and because Trump likes calling things deals. But there is a deal. There's something in place as of literally hours ago this morning where U.S. and China agreed to drastically roll back its tariffs for about 90 days in a trade breakthrough for the two nations. Breaking news in this case were literally this morning, the United States, or tomorrow as China is, where you call it, they agreed to a 90-day period to reduce the tariffs that are going on right now, marking a de-escalation, notable one, for the ongoing trade tensions. The U.S. will lower its trade tariffs down to 30% from the 145 that went into place a few weeks ago, and China will reduce tariffs down to 10 from 125. The agreement reached about some talks in Geneva where both sides, well, the Chinese side said they weren't working on a deal, and the Trump side said, the U.S. side said, we're working on a deal. This agreement has come down to it takes some economic strain on both sides, both parties, until they can figure out an actual tariff plan that works for both of them. The announcement had immediate global impact with stocks rising and futures rising here in the States quickly, 2.8% for S&P itself, with investors responding favorably to this prospect of ease tensions and, of course, maybe getting some stuff on those ships in China back to the States. So supply chain won't be as hampered as we think it will be for a small bit. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng had negotiations over the weekend, emphasizing the commitment to continued dialogue and cooperation, with both sides expressing a desire to add economic development into the case as things work out. Keywords are sustainable, long-term relationship in trade. It also plans to suspend or cancel some non-tariff measures that are kind of in place, and the retaliatory nature of each other going back and forth. 90-day period provides temporary relief. Nothing is off the table. The original tariffs are still on the books with a pause at the moment so that more talks can go on in 90 days and make a official better deal going forward. Temporary will ease trade tensions for right now and get people back to work, back to business, back to doing what they need to get done, making money here in the States and making money over there in China. So we were working to accentuate the positives, if you were, for the Trump news today or going into the weekend. Here's a not so eliminating the negative that we could not get rid of because of the Gulf of America thing and the recognizing of that. Now, many folks, many agencies, many companies, including Google, went straight to recognize it because Donald Trump is Donald Trump, U.S. is U.S. Mexico, who the Gulf is actually named after, technically, didn't quite like that, so they're taking it the Wapner route. They're going to court. Mexico has sued Google in the controversial Gulf of America label change. Happening on Friday, going into the weekend, Mexico filed a civil lawsuit against Google over its decision to label the Gulf of Mexico as Gulf of America for U.S. users of Google Maps. Now, here's the kicker. Only the U.S. users basically get it. Everyone else gets the real original Coke. Only U.S. users get the new Coke. But the change is still something that Mexico is not quite happy with, based on executive order by U.S. President Donald Trump to say, we're now calling the Gulf of America because we're awesome. Paraphrasing, if you will. The Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum, criticized that whole move, asserting that the renaming of oversteps the U.S. jurisdiction and affects international waters shared with Mexico and Cuba because other people use it and call it other things. The policy applies to local naming conventions based on user location. The users see Gulf of America in U.S. Mexican users see Gulf of Mexico, and the users elsewhere will see both names. Make sense? No. The diplomatic protests from Mexico, Google maintained its stance regardless, adhering to the official government sources. So, House of Representatives actually passed a law to officially name it Gulf of America, not just deal with the executive order. The codify it for our maps, at least. Legislation has gone to the Senate where they'll probably forget about it because they seem to do that. But this was a big deal by Marjorie Taylor Greene. She'll come up in just a moment again to kind of, codify herself as someone in Congress getting things done, supporting the Trump agenda, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. But the naming dispute has sparked debates over sovereignty and influence on digital platforms and shaping public perceptions. This is something that's not so much a new thing because various places where there are disputes on things, Google and their map systems and other map systems have been in the middle of this for a while. Things out in the middle of the desert, if you will, that many people will say, no, this land belongs to us. No, this land belongs to us. A lot of Russian territory, which is up for grabs. And a long time, the Crimea issue area in Ukraine, which was annexed by Russia, where they took a while to figure out what to call it right now. And of course, what may happen once the Ukraine war is over, what lands will take in there, who's going to claim what lands. This is something that, because it takes forever to print out a map that no one uses anymore, but takes mere moments to hit a button for digital maps that most people are using, is a big deal in when you're naming things, because if you think it should be named something and you have a right to that name, you may be upset if some other entity is claiming the name. We will probably use the next two stories for a combined hot take, although they're not so much the same. They do sort of go along with the typical talk about, although it's still kind of early, for voting for upcoming elections. Now, a quicker election coming up very soon is for the governor of Ohio. And Vivek Ramaswamy, backed by Donald Trump, gets the GOP endorsement for the governor's race in that state. So, as expected, on Friday, the Republican Party endorsed officially Biotech entrepreneur and former presidential campaign person Vivek Ramaswamy, and possibly for a moment a Doge contender, but jumped out before Doge got started in the 2026 gubernatorial race. So it's a while till we get there, a whole year or so. But he's got the nomination, he's got the endorsement of the Ohio Republican Party. So most likely when the primary happens, he'll get what's going to go forward. The endorsement was 60-3, the vote there for locally, and locally for the timing because it's very, very early. He's 39 years old, a young guy. He would have been a very young president if he won. Of course, the backing of his former ally and former competitor in the president's race, Donald Trump. He is described as young, smart, strong, and smart. Those three words, not necessarily in that order. I guess I ruined the read on that one. This provides Ramaswamy a great path, a great runway to getting this a nomination and getting the actual win as governor for Ohio. He's got financial support, institutional support. Basically, people will line up behind him in the primary. He can still be primaried, if you will. Someone can still actually run for this spot, as other people were planning to do this for. Ramaswamy jumped in to get in this one. His main rival is Attorney General Dave Yost, who expressed disappointment for the early endorsement and is reassessing his campaign. Other ones are Lieutenant Governor Jim Tressel and entrepreneur Heather Hill, who voiced concerns about the endorsement process. Basically, why so early? Ramaswamy is from Cincinnati, which blew my mind. And he's a native of Cincinnati and ran for president, of course, in 2024, endorsing Trump when he dropped out of the race and was going to be part of the administration, incensed by joining on with Elon Musk to do Doge stuff. Elon Musk apparently can do enough damage on his own. Ramaswamy went back to Ohio to work towards that governorship, to basically raise his platform, his profile, because he didn't want to just be a government lackey. He wanted an actual role in government, taking care of stuff. He proved to many folks that he had the chops to be maybe a vice president or maybe a possible president in the future. So maybe the governor's route and a few more years of political seasoning will get him to where he needs to be. Now, let's go to where she's not going to be, and that is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, she will still continue to cause havoc and chaos in the House, including her bill that got passed a few days ago for renaming, officially codifying the name in the United States for Gulf of America over Gulf of Mexico. But what she won't be doing is taking on John Ossoff in the Senate. She won't be a Georgia senator this go round. She made an announcement on Friday as well. She's not running for the Senate seat in Georgia, although the big deal about Ossoff, the Democratic incumbent, is he seems to be one of the weaker shots in the Senate going forward in 2026, trying to make sure they can maintain their ownership of the Senate with their majority. Losing a Democratic seat is one way to maintain it by gaining, in a sense, because it mitigates what you may lose on the other side. In the statement posted on social media, Greene criticized the Senate as ineffective and resistant to pro-Trump grassroots changes, saying she prefers to fight with those committed to transformative changes. Basically, battling with her brother, her sister group, the Senate, because both of them do different things, and she says House better than Senate. Your mileage may vary. It follows Brian Kemp, the governor, former governor of the state, saying, or the governor right now, about to lose his seat because of term limits, saying he's not running for the Senate seat either. What he's going to do later, maybe he's going straight to presidency. Maybe he's going to do private service. Maybe he's got other things going on, money coming in. We'll see. U.S. Representative Buddy Carter has declared his candidacy, and while other Republicans are in that sort of thick of things, Representatives Mike Collins and Rich McCormick are there and state officials as well, and Brad Ratzenberger and Tyler Harper, those guys, those names you may remember, may throw their name in the rack for the Senate seat. It's not going to be Marjorie Taylor Greene, who would basically take all the oxygen out of the room from the get-go as the most famous person and most likely person to get the biggest endorsement from the state. She expressed her satisfaction with the Senate structure. We talked about that, claiming that it really doesn't get stuff done and is not really trying to work Donald Trump's agenda. She, in the House, working very hard for Donald Trump's agenda going forward. Now, because she's not running for the Senate, she may actually try to run for governor. She may go back and take care of the whole state on its own as a governorship. We shall see. No real rumblings of that one right now. The big thing is Ossoff is definitely vulnerable in the Senate, so they're trying to find a Republican to take that spot. No one's jumped onto it of note yet. Many names are out there. No one prominent to take over the limelight at the moment. Our fifth story for this morning is a terrifying one, and it reminds us that earthquakes are not just the domain of the Californians. There are many other faults here. Here in Arkansas, there's the San Andreas fault, San Humanis fault. I should know the name of the fault. Sorry about that. That is in the middle of the country that one day will hit and basically split the whole nation in half. They say it's that terrible. And there are random quakes along the lines there. This past weekend, there was an earthquake in Tennessee, pretty big one. 4.1 magnitude earthquake striking near Greenback, Tennessee, about 9:04 local time Saturday morning. The quake originated about 30 miles south of Knoxville and was felt across multiple states, including South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia, with residents in Atlanta reporting noticeable shaking, though no injuries or significant damage were reported there in Atlanta and most places as well. It wasn't as deadly as it could be, but a 4.1 in the middle of a rural America, or the South, should say, is a big deal. About 25 miles and under is the depth listed for that, which is considered shallow and widespread sensations of tremor. So it wasn't a deep one that was like right there to shake everything there, but it was shallow, so it spread across the land and everyone felt a little bit of it. East Tennessee seismic zone, where the quake occurred, is known for its seismic activity, though events of this magnitude are relatively uncommon. As we said, the big ones like this, not exactly ones we see around here, but they do shake so often to remind us that they are there. About 23,000 individuals reported feeling the quakes in the U.S. The Geological Survey within the first hour said the reports came in as far as Charlotte, North Carolina, and Greenville, South Carolina. Geological characteristics from the eastern United States, allowing seismic waves to travel farther than other regions, just the way the ground is towards the coast. This is a case where literally your mileage may vary. No significant damage, but it served as a reminder that these things exist. They are here. 5% chance of similar or larger aftershocks after the attack during a week. So after one shock, maybe a few days later, another a shock of around this magnitude, maybe even bigger. We will see. We're on the lookout. And so now we're on, along with being close to hurricane watch and always on tornado watch, it is now apparently earthquake watch now as well. Thank you for joining us for this here thing called Things You Might Have Heard from the Conversation Project, a part of what I produce under More and Better Media LLC. And we'll talk more about more Better Media projects as we talk about today's sponsor, which is a book that I produce under that larger umbrella. But for this thing here particularly, and the growth of things you might have heard in the Conversation Project, this is a part where we always pause in the middle of our daily show and give you a chance to help us out. Now, Monday, we'll give you 10 stories, and the rest of the week, that'll be Tuesday through Friday, we'll give you 8 stories for things you might have heard, and they give you a background of stories from the past iterations. So all weekend long, we gathered stories, and these are 10 of the big ones that you guys said were big. We'll explain why you said they're big and not just me here in a moment. And the rest of the week, it'll be 8 for the day because it's less in a day than 3 days. But in order to grow what we have here and get more stuff, and for me to ask you for less money, because we need the money, we need you to help us grow what we have here so that we have more people involved, engaged, and seeing what we have going on, so that the platforms will serve us up more and basically pay us more. Like, share, and subscribe to the video you're watching here on the platform you're watching it. It's YouTube. Love that, because we do our real tracking on YouTube. Also Facebook and X. If you like what we're doing in other places, go to our website, see some other places where we can see other things that may not be the long form live here, such as the audio versions on whatever your pods are cast on. That's there as well. And of course, one of the greatest things about this is we have an email newsletter that we publish from the notes we do here. That is just the words and links to the stories, a quick view of the stories for the morning without my voice and my face and the 30 minutes of me yakking about it. It's there. Like this video so that I know I picked the right stories. I'm doing the best commentary. This is a great mix of things going on. And the algorithms thinks it's kind of cool as well. They're shared to more people and get more people involved in watching it. Share it with like-minded people who will enjoy this type of stuff or may want to hate watch it. You may be a hate watcher, and that is fine. I want hate watchers, hate engagers, hate commenters, because I need all parts of the conversation from all sides. And if you want to love it or hate it, but you got this either by sharing or by a sharing by either the algorithm or from a friend, frenemy, enemy, whatever, subscribe so that you get this native into your feed in whatever form you want to. Either the forms to do this show here live, that's YouTube, that's X, that is Facebook, or the offshoots, the short takes, the hot takes on TikTok, the audio versions, the emails, whatever. Like, share, and subscribe so we have more people in the mix, so we have more mixing going on. 5 more stories promised. Here's story number 6. And I have to apologize right now because these 6 stories are basically where we go to the TMZ-ish nature of things you might have heard. Sometimes the stories are kind of out there. Sometimes stories are just kind of, really, you want to talk about that? But these are stories that you guys engaged in. The same way that we serve up these stories to you, we offer up this video to you. We offer up stories and links to them for you to engage in all day long. And you guys want to talk about Elizabeth Holmes, because while I think this is just a odd obsession I have with the woman and the company she had, this is actually a big deal. Her partner has raised millions of dollars for a new biotech startup, despite the controversy that he is attached to Elizabeth Holmes. Billy Evans is the partner, convicted Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes, and has reported raised $20 million for a new biotech startup named Hamanthus. That's the last time I'm going to say that because I'm going to butcher that one as well. The company aims to develop diagnostic technology using Raman spectroscopy and artificial intelligence to advance small samples of blood, saliva, urine, and sweat. You may have heard that tale before. Despite a similarity to the other one, the new one plans to initially focus on veterinary applications before expanding to human diagnosis. Holmes is right now in the middle of an 11-year stint in prison for fraud, said to be advising Evans on the venture from behind bars. While this new venture asserts that Holmes has no formal role in the company, sources indicate that she is informally playing a role. The startup has emphasized transparency, offering media access to its facilities, although major outlets have reportedly declined the invitation. Essentially, nobody actually cares, but you care. So we're talking about it. The emergence of Hamanthus has sparked suspicions and skepticism due to its parallels to Theranos, because essentially the same thing with a different name, but it's focusing on pets instead of people for the moment. Some investors have declined to participate, in citing that company's credibility and involvement of Holmes, who is involved, even though not formally. Nonetheless, Evans has $20 million to play with right now from personal connections and early backers. 20 million is not much to not nothing to sneeze at. It's actually a big chunk of money to get something started and get the details on a small scale going for a while. Incorporated in February of 2024, based in Austin, the company's name is delivered from the Greek word for blood flower, reflects its focus on blood-based diagnostics. And despite the controversy, Evans and his team continue to develop their technology, aiming to bring a new diagnostic tool to the market sooner, because the sooner they can, the sooner they can make money off it or sell it to someone else or do something with it. Is this Theranos 2, Electric Boogaloo? We shall see. I'm not sure how much time Holmes has left in jail. Quite a bit of time, I believe, at least 5 or so years left. But we shall see what happens if she comes out of jail and becomes a part of this team, part of this board, or is she just going to be continue to whisper from the sides with info for her partner? I'm going to commentary this one a bit, but first I'm going to read the Robot Editor's write-up for the story, and then we'll talk about some others in a bit. Now, GoFundMe removes a campaign for the man accused of killing a deputy after his son was shot by police. This GoFundMe, from GoFundMe campaign was removed, and multiple campaigns actually put up for fundraising for Rodney Hilton Jr., the Ohio man accused of fatally striking a sheriff's deputy with his car May the 2nd. The incident occurred shortly after Hinton viewed his police body camera footage showing that his son was shot by officers during a traffic stop. Citing violations of the terms of service, GoFundMe stated that this platform prohibits fundraisers for legal defense of individuals charged with violent crimes. All donations made to this platform for these campaigns will be refunded pretty quickly to all donors. No charges, no nothing, full refunds. Following this removing from GoFundMe, a new fundraising efforts were put on by Give, Send, Go. We'll talk about them in a moment. The platform, known from hosting campaigns, removed from other sites. This campaign was organized by Hinton's sister, and it aims to raise just $6,000 to support his legal defenses. Another one called Free Rodney Hilton, looking for $100,000, asserting that Hilton wasn't justly jailed after reacting to his son's death. Now, these campaigns have raised some money. I'm not sure exact numbers they have so far, but they are raising money for the defense and the going forward for Mr. Hilton. It sparked debate, the case itself, the ethics of crowdfunding for individuals accused of violent crimes, especially when alleged to acts are connected to perceived injustices. Law enforcement groups have expressed concern over such fundraisers, expressing that they undermine public trust and support for law enforcement. Essentially, the people who may not be so happy with the cops are giving money to fund the other people in their defense, which they deserve a good defense, but they get extra money to have great lawyers and great prosecutors, great people, great lawyers and great defenders to keep them out of jail, while prosecutors get no extra help. Also, the supporters of Hinton viewed the fundraising efforts to basically make sure they get justice and support the grieving father who has those rights. Now, there are larger episodes and thoughts and process on the debate of streaming platforms, is a whole nother deal, but on platforms for crowdfunding, to include, one lady named Shiloh, who is now in the news for, racial slurs. The actual co-founder, or the CFO and co-founder of Give, Send, Go, gave some interviews last week talking about the fact that her fundraisers, which were pulled off of GoFundMe as well, and put on to Give, Send, Go, even though Give, Send, Go said there's more liberal and thinks everybody said it was offense, how many people who are actually supporting her are very openly racist and putting it in the notations for her, essentially cursing out, calling it N-word to a 5-year-old and getting $1 million from that. I believe Give, Send, Go is the main source for funds for Luigi Mangione as well. His, of course, fundraisers were taken off of GoFundMe as well. He, of course, obviously allegedly committed a violent crime, so that essentially is against their rules. We will see how this plays out. Now, one, Mr. Hilton deserves a good defense. That's number one. Number two, Mr. Hilton is accused of a very serious crime. That is very serious as well. So he needs to make sure that everything is done on the up and up on the book, just like Mangione as well. But the fact that we're talking so much about these campaign sites, these collection sites for people in these things, and the legality is not so much there because anyone can donate to anyone's fund. You can basically write a check and put it in his sister's hands and go with that one. But the sort of message being sent by people in these things for the people that they're raising money for is always debatable. No debate at North Carolina as the university confirms that Bill Belichick's girlfriend is still welcome on the campus. Despite the rumors against the case, Jordan Hudson, who is a 24-year-old girlfriend and confidant of head coach for University of North Carolina, Bill Belichick, is still welcome in the football facilities. Announcement comes after a response to reports stating that she'd been banned from the premises. This controversy began when journalist Pablo Torre reported on his podcast that Hudson was no longer permitted at UNC's football facilities, citing unnamed sources within the program. The problem with unnamed sources is if they get it wrong, you look like a fool. If they get it right, you still look kind of sketchy, but they get it wrong, you look dumb. And Torre also mentioned concerns from Belichick's family about Hudson's influence on his legacy. Basically, everybody's a bit worried about Hudson because UNC actually refuted the claim, stating that, in a quote, while Jordan Hudson is not an employee of the University of Carolina Athletics, she is welcome to the Carolina football facilities, in the quote. They clarified that Hudson manages activities related to Belichick's personal brand, not his football brand, not the college's brand. So it's separate duties. As a personal assistant, if you will, she's allowed to come on campus and do things for Bill Belichick and his other legacy stuff. She just should not be doing direct stuff for the football stuff. Public criticism and a lot of eyeballs and a lot of people getting real nosy happened specifically after the CBS interview on 60 Minutes, where Hudson interrupted the actual interviewee to avoid Belichick answering questions about their relationship, i.e., how'd you guys meet? We're not talking about that. This ain't about that. We're talking about a book. We're talking about practice. Something like that. Belichick later defended her actions, stating that she was helping keep the interview focused on his book and not talking about his personal life and the fact that they are, yeah. Despite the university's clarification, Torre stands by his reporting, saying that his source was right. They're just spinning it to make sure they are not being seen as the wrong people in the situation. That's being university, essentially changing their tune because of what they thought they could get away with. The first season for UNC is going to be a big one, with the Tar Heels taking on their noted schedule with the new coach, a guy with big NFL, obviously, acumen, and maybe a way to get some of his guys into the pipeline to go big time going forward. It'd be pretty big to have a guy like Belichick to coach you up to go to the pros. The big issue, of course, is Belichick going to be able to deal with the issues and the attitudes of the college players, especially in the world of the NIL. Mondays, we get 2 extra stories. So we go a little long on Mondays, and we go a little extra tabloid today because I'm not sure if Taylor Swift knew he was trouble when he got there, but we're going to get the answers as she has been subpoenaed in the legal fight that's involving both Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. One in particular, although there's 4 or 5 different cases going back and forth. So it gets confusing. Here in particular, Swift has been subpoenaed as a witness in the ongoing legal dispute, one of many, with Blake Lively and actor-director Justin Baldoni for the film It Ends With Us. This trial is scheduled to begin in March 2026, so plenty of time to stew over this one till we get there. The conflict began in December 2024. Lively filed a complaint against Baldoni, accusing him of sexual harassment on the film set. Baldoni responded with a countersuit in January this year, $400 million against Lively, her husband, Ryan Reynolds, and their publicist, alleging civil extortion, defamation, and invasion of privacy. In the lawsuit, Baldoni claims Lively attempted to take control of the film's production and that she, along with Swift and Reynolds, pressured him into accepting creative changes. One side example involved a rooftop scene that Lively allegedly wanted to rewrite, with Baldoni asserting that he felt compelled to agree due to influence. Text messages included the lawsuit referencing Swift and Reynolds as dragons, not the imagined kind, supporting Lively's creative decisions. Swift's involvement in the film was also bigger than that. She's actually licensed some movie songs. My Tears Ricochet is in the trailer and one scene in the movie. Her spokesman has denied any further participation, basically saying she gave him a song, she didn't give any input. not involved in any casting, creative decisions, or production, and did not seem to film until it was basically done. Spokesperson criticized the subpoena and attempt to use Swift's name to attract public interest, calling it tabloid bait. There's already plenty of tabloid bait. We'll talk about Amber Heard being involved in a minute as well. She's involved as well, but she's got a whole other thing in just a moment. The legal team for Blake Lively also condemned the subpoena, basically calling Baldoni's team just trying to turn this into a spectacle, making it bigger than it should be so that maybe it get thrown out. Maybe he can win on the public opinion. Maybe they can all be seen as jerks because they're all jerks. Taylor's fine. Everyone else, kind of a jerk. Ryan, he's smug, but, Baldoni and Lively are not showing their good faces in this case right now. They actually brought up the fact that they should live stream the deposition so everyone should see it at Madison Square Garden because people want to see this as a part of an attack on public indignation and women's rights. Yeah, it's that big. It's that bad, that bold, that ridiculous. But you engage in it. You talk about it. You hate these folks almost as much as you hate the next person we're talking about. So this is why it's a part of the conversation we have for things you might have heard. In today's supersized edition of Things You Might Have Heard, the same 10 number stories, just a lot of extra commentary and rambling, I guess, is coming to us from Mother's Day. A extra Mother's Day gift to all of us, and a special gift for Amber Heard as she secretly welcomed 2 twins in a surprise for Mother's Day. On yesterday, Mother's Day, we got the announcement of the birth of her 2 twins, a daughter named Agnes and a son named Ocean, in a heartfelt Mother's Day Instagram post. The 39-year-old actress shared photos of the newborns, their feet, and expressed her joy at completing the family she has longed to build. She already has 1 child, Unag Page, born in 2021, emphasizing that becoming a mother on her own terms, despite fertility challenges, has been the most humbling experience in her life. The message reflected on her journey into motherhood, stating that her world changed forever with the birth of Unag, and that she now feels even greater sense of joy with the arrival of 2 more. She highlighted the importance of choosing to become a parent independently and thoughtfully expressing the eternal gratitude for the opportunity that she has to do so. The announcement also included a tribute to mothers everywhere because it's Mother's Day, acknowledging the diverse paths of motherhood and celebrating the shared experience of parenting. She concluded her post by sending love to all moms, stating that her dream family is celebrating alongside with them. She's been living in Spain since 2022 and maintaining a relatively private life with all the high-profile public battles, legal and otherwise. The announcement marked a significant personal milestone and has been met with warm wishes from fans and the public in general. As of now, no identity of the twins' father. She says she's raising them on her own and has the ability to do that, and is consistent with her approach to privacy regarding her children's parentage. She also continues to focus on raising her children and embracing motherhood on her own terms. Terms and conditions of the Conversation Project are pretty simple. You guys engage with news stories and tell us which stories seem like the most interesting, most conversational stories. We go through the swath of them and figure out which ones we think will get the most responses and have a show about it. And then some hot clips, some takes on them as well. 3 stories that are in the queue teased up for you to engage in right now include Zepbound beating Vukovi for weight loss in first head-to-head trial of blockbuster drugs. Looks like if you're looking to lose weight specifically and you're just going for that prescription, Zepbound is going to beat Wegovy. Check out the story and see how the details worked out. Donald Trump's also about to sign a order that's going to cut drug prices to match other countries. Obviously, the pharmaceutical companies aren't so happy about this one. And it's sort of a flip-flop to flip-flop for something he did in his last administration, which was taken away and redone by Biden, who basically negotiated with Medicare to get 10 drugs down to a certain cost, which, of course, Trump is getting rid of to do basically all medications that cost less than other nations need to cost the same thing here. It's a bit more complicated than that one, and the people are basically lining up to have their shots at it. So read the article, engage in it, so we know that you want to talk about it. And the Kentucky Derby happened, and now they're announcing of a new official dress code, something they never had before, because a popular influencer was spotted, quote unquote, busting out at this year's event, being dressed a bit inappropriately for the event because because. And so now they have to put the brakes on and say, there's the dress code, adhere to it, or get kicked out. We'll see how this one plays out. And if you guys want to get into this story as well. Our spotlight sponsor for the day is the Now What Network. The Now What Network is a website. Yes, website that I produce that produces articles once a week that talks about staying engaged in the political process, being engaged in the political process, how to engage in the political process. As the 2024 election was rolling in, this is something, a bit of a project I've been working for a while, just bits and pieces. I published a book called the Now What Network Manifesto, a way to promote the website and to go over a list of things you should do if you want to stay involved in the political landscape, especially after the election, which it was published about a week or so, a couple days before the actual nominations and the voting went in. Of course, 10 actionable items for 10 tactics, 10 things you can do to make sure your voice and your vote truly count. This is for people who feel lost or disenfranchised because the person they voted for did not win, and want to make sure that person stays accountable to the people who did not vote for them, or for people who the person they voted for did win, and make sure that that person stays accountable to everyone, at least to them, and doesn't change their mind and flip-flop on them, because they tend to do that. The book empowers you to demand transparency, ethical conduct, and real accountability from your leaders, all of them, local, national, wherever. And it's so there's a bit of opinion, there's a bit of my thought process, but it really is 10 things you can do on all levels, specifically on a local level, to make sure you're involved in the process. As a person who is a part of a couple of small boards here in my neighborhood, live in my neighborhood and other places, being involved in the process of guiding people is a great thing. And being involved because of the boards I'm on, looking at what legislation locally is doing to some folks is a big deal. And understanding how the way your leaders are running things for the betterment of all sometimes isn't so much for the betterment of all, or specifically of you. And there's a problem with that one. So check out the book, the Now What Network Manifesto, at Amazon. It's $10 in paperback and $5 in Kindle version. There's links to that book inside this presentation, or just go to the website nowwhat.network and you can find the book links there and see some of the things we've written up there over the past couple of times. There are also some excerpts of the book in some of the chapters, some rewrites of the chapters, if you will. But they're all articles that are fresh, that are new, that are ongoing, about how you can maintain your rights, your levels in the political process. It's as simple as maybe doing some marches, showing up for meetings, making sure you vote when election shows up, making sure you stay engaged in the activity, knowing what you're voting for when a vote shows up. Now, we are going to do this fairly quickly because we've run long. The Conversation Project is the website that originates this here thing, and it lives online at this. It's conversationproject.com. Our email address is theconversationinbox@gmail.com. And unfortunately, I don't get a chance to do a full rundown of the feeds, but I'm going to do it really quickly right now for those because we've gone so long today. Facebook.com/thisisconversationproject and x.com/th_conversation. What we have at those two places, those two landing spots, if you will, is our own little pages inside of Facebook and X. And what we use those for is to produce for you links to other articles, other places, other news places across the internets all day long, every 50 minutes or so. And you, as you check your feeds throughout the day, we hope you engage with us as well. And when you engage in the stories there, you basically put a vote in to chat it up. So look at it, click on it and read it, engage in it with your replies, click a response for the emoji you want to for Facebook, or the heart, because that's all they have for X. The more you engage in it, the more you click, look at, share, do things with it, the higher the engagement score literally goes up. The platform tells us how many times people actually touch and maneuver it. We take the highest scoring engaged stories and look at them, and from them whittle out the stories to produce into our thing here. So these aren't necessarily the top 10 stories for today, but 10 of the top stories for the weekend to give to you here, and hopefully the right mix of stories. Yeah, the Amber Heard one might be a stretch, but you guys engage with her, so we put her out there as well. Of course, this gets presented in things you might have heard every single weekday morning, 10 on Monday, 5 or 8 on Tuesday through Friday. And of course, the weekly roundup, which gives you a look back at 12. We made it up to the 15, although it seems like a long slog of the stories from the past week to get back into the swing of things. So all that happens here with you. So we need your help to happen here with you. Go to our website, thisisconversationprod.com. Check out more things behind the scenes, including more sponsors and sponsors page, or maybe be a partner and help us fund this thing directly. Email us at conversationinbox@gmail.com. If you don't like a story we published today, email me and say, why did we not talk about this story? We'll chat that up in emails. That is that for a longish edition for the Monday edition of Things You Might Have Heard, the 12th of May, 2025. I am Jay Cleveland Payne. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, especially hanging out this long. We're going to wrap it up pretty quickly because we've been here for a while. Love you. Mean it. Check out the feeds. Consider being a partner and just be engaged because you tell us the stories to talk about, so we have stories to talk about. This is a dialogue. This is a conversation. This is not a monologue of me just reading stories that are top in the trending list. This is really about you and what you think we should be talking about. So let's keep it at that. Love you. Mean it. We are done. Keep in the feeds. We'll be back tomorrow morning, about 5:30 in the morning, with a live feed of stories from the Monday to tell you that you told us what to talk about.